We are now going to start our study session, but before we start, I want to say welcome back, because it's been such a long time since we've seen each other in person, and during that period, we have two members of our family that have lost family. So I would just want to ask everyone to say a silent prayer for Catherine Conwright for losing her mom, and Carmelita Sapp Walker, she lost her husband this week. So let's just keep them lifted in prayer. All righty, we're going to start with unfinished business. Councilor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. This item relates to the municipal sidewalk program. I guess if it's questions from councilors, the administration can answer them. If not, the item will be ready for a vote on Monday.
Thank you. I have item 10. I'm going to call that ready, but I will by Monday. Councilor Bay.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items number 11 through 15. 11, 12, 13. Mr. Clerk, if you could remind me.
We're having the public hearing at Monday at 1 o'clock, so assuming the hearing goes well, they'll be ready for a vote.
All right, appreciate it. So these are, we'll call them ready with a question mark for Monday's hearing, Madam President. Item 14 is to sell for rights of interest. This is an amendment. I'm not sure if any of my colleagues have any questions. We have Mr. Clifford.
Good afternoon, councilors. It's good to be back. This is just amending the authorization to sell the two streets, the 1000 block of South Clinton Street and the 100 block of Cortland Avenue. The name we were given originally is not the name into which the real estate is going to be put, so we are changing that. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Councilor Bay, I was wondering if, as long as we were talking about streets, no, nothing for you, Commissioner, but 11, 12, and 13, I'd just like to urge my colleagues to read the letters that are accompanying this legislation as far as the North Side community goes. It's a really important project for the North Side, and I know at the Planning Commission hearing, Councilor Driscoll and Councilor Carney spoke at it, and I sent a letter, so I would urge my colleagues to look at those letters and how important this is for the continued rehabilitation of the North Side. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 15 is a special permit. Is Mr. Mendola available? Any of my colleagues have any questions by chance? No? All right, those are my items, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. Items 16 and 17 also relate to the municipal sidewalk program, if there's any questions on those. Items 18 and 19 are IT-related items. These passed through the Finance Committee. Item 18 is a program for graphic design to allow City Hall staff more licenses. Does anyone have any questions on this item? Okay. And then item 19 extends our municipal agreement with Onondaga County in relation to the PeopleSoft project. If anyone has any questions on that item. Okay. Item 20 relates to the city tax levy. Any questions on that item? And if not, item 21 relates to the mid-year transfer, so I'll invite Budget Director Rudd up for some questions related to that.
Hello, councilors. I'm happy to take your questions first. I know the auditor sent some right before the meeting, but I can, if you want me to.
Yeah, why don't you start with the auditor's questions, and then have additional questions, we can go from there.
Per the charter, this document is supposed to be presented March 15th. It's true. My intention is definitely to submit it March 15th next year. I guess I would say that I view the report as an accompaniment to the budget transfer that we're doing, the mid-year transfer, which also should happen then. But I guess I could have given a report, but it wouldn't. There's a lot of uncertainty at that time. So definitely the intention will be March 15th next year. Would it be helpful to provide narrative? So there is less narrative. A lot of the narrative walks through the numbers in the report. So I'm open to how much narrative you want around the numbers, or if you just want to talk through the report, we can sit and go over it, or we could discuss it in a committee meeting, but I'm happy to answer questions in whatever format you want. 3, there was a question about the allowance for negotiations. Would it be a cost saving? So essentially we budgeted money, but we're not showing to spend money. So we're probably going to end up spending that money, but it's uncertain at the moment until we have, until we get through arbitration. There's not sure why the aviation fund is not reimbursing the city for services provided. I don't know, I'll have to talk to the auditor about that one, but I don't know, they're underspending, but other than that, I'm not sure. It might be a delay in the way the expenses and revenues get reported. Extra AIM, so we had a 20%, AIM is the state aid to municipalities, that we get 71 million a year, it's been the same for 11 years. So that amount was reduced by 20% in our previous fiscal year, so $14 million was cut from that. The state's fiscal year is different than ours, so when they got bailed out, they restored our AIM payment, but that fiscal year had already closed, so this year our AIM payment's gonna actually be 20% higher than we budgeted, but it's really just a function of getting the delay later. So a year from now, it'll be the same. But certainly that makes the budget
So, excuse
picture
me,
better.
but, so with that aim, with that 20% being over, so do we look to see that roll over the next year, or are we gonna end up washing it out?
Well, in practice, it's just gonna make it such that we don't need to use the reserves at all, and such that we underspend. And to the extent we underspend, that amount will go into the reserves by law. Some confusion on the way a variance is reported for the general fund. I think the variance column didn't sum correctly. I'm not sure why. I think the numbers, the whole numbers for the adopted and the projected are accurate, but I'll double check. But certainly the math is wrong. Otherwise, it does accompany the budget transfer. So if you were to look at the transfers that are happening and you were to look at the report, essentially those areas are the areas that are negative. So all the other departments have a projected budget surplus for this fiscal year, which is largely because the budget authorized quite a bit of money. We cut all year long until we got really restored by the federal government. So we've underspent for the year, and we're not going to end up spending all that money by the end of the year, even though we've restored things like labor concessions and all of that. Those are the auditor's questions. Any other questions about the report or I guess the budget transfer as well, which really connects to it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have a question. Tim. So you mentioned the potential savings in negotiations, and I'm wondering, does that relate to the arbitration between the police contract?
The allowance for negotiations is a budget allocation for the police arbitration, yeah.
Right, and I'm wondering, is the expected savings in that, is that because there's not going to be any negotiation?
No, so whether to put in a number for that or not to put in a number for that, I guess is a judgment call, but we just don't know what the answer is going to be. So it has a 0 as the projected number, but we're very likely to have some sort of agreement and need to make a retro payment.
Right, but if I'm just trying to get a grasp on this issue because I wasn't here for that part. So was the money allocated for negotiations supposed to be spent because there was going to be an arbitration?
It's just us setting aside money because we know we're very likely to have a settlement, and we don't put it in the department so they can't spend it. We put it on the side, and then we use it to make the retro payment. So that's essentially In theory, a retro payment could be more than what was set aside there.
Sure, so then at this point, there is an expected settlement over that contract. Fair to say.
What's the question?
There's an
again?
expected settlement to that arbitration?
I think everybody expects there to be an award soon. There's arbitration set, a meeting next week. I'm not an expert on how soon from that date there would be agreement, but there is a panel meeting next week.
Understood, thank you.
So Tim, with that, so how much what was the final number that was taken to arbitration, considering that there were adjustments made?
I don't know if somebody, Corey, do you want to talk about arbitration? In general, I think a lot of information goes in and they talk about the finances of the city. So they talk about comparative awards to other cities, and then they talk about the agreement that was proposed and what parts are uncertain, and then they make it a... There's 3 people on the panel. I think Corey is our person on the panel. And then I think there's one from the PBA and one from a neutral party.
Corey Denham, I'm sorry, what's the question?
My question was, before the adjustment was made, we had about $19 million. And then after the adjustment was made, what was the final number at that point?
So we don't know what the final number is, but we negotiated a reduction of at least $4 million. I mean, that's the ultimate cost of the award is what we're going to arbitration about. So it depends on what the arbitrator decides on in terms of the extent of the retro payments that we will owe. So we don't have the final cost yet until we have the arbitration award.
The dollar amounts also are hard to compare that way because the original proposal was 4 or 4.5 years?
4.5 years.
4.5 years, and arbitration will only be 2 years. The effect will carry forward, but there will be out of contract again immediately.
But in essence...
Excuse me, Councilor Hogan,
Oh, I'm sorry.
because Councilor Bay been pushing his button for a minute, so we're going to go back that way.
Push your button, fellas. I have a question for Law, because this has always been maybe a little bit different than what I think we're accustomed to. Is there not anyone from Corporation Counsel here?
I know there was a funeral today for Catherine Conroy's mom that I know a number of the lawyers were at, but I can go see if someone's available.
Yeah, because I don't know that anyone else can answer
Okay.
this question.
I can go check.
Councilor Hogan, you want to proceed, and then, can he proceed until she
I
come back?
think we're probably on the same wavelength, Councilor Bay.
Somebody from law?
I'm gonna sit while we wait. Thank you. Do you want to do other finance, like, do you have any other questions about the transfer in terms of, it's mainly going to law? So law for outside contracts, law for settlements. The transfer to the settlements makes it so we don't have to bond anything for settlements this year.
All righty, that says Councilor Green, but who is it? It's Councilor Hogan, okay.
No, I thought, I'm sorry, Tim, but we normally ban for some legal profession. Do we ban for professional services at all?
No.
We just ban for like when somebody's awarded monies, correct?
Yeah, I think sometimes we don't know if we're gonna have enough money. So imagine we didn't get
Didn't know until this morning.
the federal money, and the state didn't get the federal money, so then we didn't get our state aid. We would be in a tougher circumstance, so we asked for permission to bond for the larger settlements, because New York State allows for that.
Through us.
And then essentially, we just don't use the authorization.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we always bond.
Yeah.
We always vote on a bond, but we may not authorize it if it's not.
Because you have to authorize the bonding when you authorize the spending. You can't go back and do it. That's why we always do it.
And we guess basically what we're gonna pay for professional services when we have to go to the outside counsel, correct? I mean, we're like about, we're asking for like a budget transfer like $700,000, correct? For
Right.
outside legal services.
Right.
And that's difficult, of course, to assess.
To predict?
Well, yes.
I think, yeah, I mean, the answer I've heard Kristen Smith give is that when you're understaffed, you contract certain ones out. It's unclear how much they're going to use over time. You don't switch midstream, so if you hire new staff, you don't take off your outside counsel. So certain cases end up
Well,
driving
you know, Greg's here.
expenses.
Greg, we hired an outside counsel, right, for the Columbus Monument lawsuit, correct?
Greg Lowe, Chief Policy Officer for the city. Counselor, in all sincerity, I need to defer that question to law because I don't know the answer.
Well, it's
I've been
fine.
involved in the project and have not dealt with any outside counsel.
Okay, because the law was, you know, they got back to me and they said that they hired Hancock for
Well,
the...
then you know more than I do. I've worked on the project and haven't had any
Could you say that
engagement.
again? I know more than you do? Okay,
You know more than I do on that one, sir.
thank you.
I'm sorry though, but this is all for previous year. This isn't, I mean, that would be, Hancock would be future funds. This is from previous, we're transferring to pay off previous bills, correct? This is for outside legal
This
services.
is for right now, so it's for the
Right.
current fiscal year that's going to end in a month.
I think the
So
point
it's
I'm
just
trying
higher
to
than
make,
the budget was.
Councilor Carney, I think the point I'm trying to make is that are we sure we're allocating enough fund for outside services? I mean, certainly we can't assess, you know, for a car accident or something like that, what that's going to cost us, but certainly if we're, you know, if for some situation like we're going to be facing shortly with the
I do
Columbus
think
Monument
the answer in the budget process was that they've hired up now, and they don't have cases going with outside counsel, so they expect the budget will not be this high in the future, so the budget for next year is reflective of what is actually expected to happen. So it's kind of like an uptick for a short period of time. For outside counsel, that's what I remember from the budget hearings, but
I mean, you got like 1.3 for outside services, I think, allocated for next fiscal year, correct? And we only went over 700,000 this year. And this lawsuit's going to cost us quite a bit more, I imagine. I mean, just this one major one. I'm just bringing that to your attention.
I don't disagree with, but I mean, the 770 that we're allocating right now is to pay bills that are outstanding, correct?
Right.
Okay, and I guess then my question, and it probably is more geared toward laws, what was the reason for that? What was it because of the, you know, negotiations with police, or was it a slew of things? Like, I understand that with the settlements and the judgments and claims that we're doing, I know that we had a lot of them this year. I mean, that was discussed in, you know, our last, but was this the $770,000? Is that simply because of the police negotiation? I mean, why is it so much higher this year than in years past? Or yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I would let
It's
Kristen
long, yeah.
explain that one,
Sure.
but we can follow up on what exactly the work was that was outsourced. I don't have that detail.
I'll just pose my question, and maybe Law can get back at some point. And then sitting and listening to the dialogue, consider the fact that it may be a question for state lawyers instead. But in a system of checks and balances, and this has been my concern ever since the discussion on arbitration came up relative to the police contract. If a contract is not valid absent this body's vote, how are we held liable for a unilateral contract? So if somebody can get that answer for us, I don't believe we can be held liable, so there must be a loophole in the state system. But, you know, I appreciate it, Court. Thanks, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam President. Those are my items.
Councilor Carney.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 22 through 35. 22 is going to be held for a public hearing Monday, June 21st. 23 and 24, the Beautified Berwyn Avenue project. Is there someone that can speak to that item?
Hi, Councilors. Michael Collins, Commissioner, Neighborhood and Business Development. Huber Brewer, which their property exists at the end of Berwyn Ave, has approached the city. They would like to as a goodwill gesture and beautifying project for their neighborhood, replace the sidewalks along the one-block stretch of Berwyn. This year, they want to do the east side with a plan next year to do west side. This being in Councilor Allen's district, we've talked with Councilor Allen about it, and this would be at no cost to the homeowners, no cost to the city, completely a gift from Huber Brewer that's going to replace sidewalks that are honestly in pretty rough shape across that block.
So I had brought this up at the last, the standing committee meeting where we discussed this. That's great, happy that they're doing that. Where did we fall on, or have we not yet, about the fee structure? If the unfinished business 9A is to pass, what will occur there? Because
I followed up with Joe Barry. I'll have an answer for you this afternoon. I think I have my understanding of what the ordinance states, but I don't want to say it. I want to confirm with Joe before I say that, but I'll make sure to get you an answer by the end of the day today.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All good?
Any other questions on that one? No? Okay. 25, the disposal of the sweeper waste materials. Want to speak to that?
Hi, Ann Fordak, First Deputy Commissioner from DPW, and this is just disposal of our street sweeper materials that are product of us sweeping the streets, and we need a disposal location. We did bid it out through the county. It came back at $85 a ton to be hauled away, and the local Camillus landfill is $10 a ton, so we felt that we could self-haul it there, and it would be a better decision. Any questions on that? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, 26, 27 FEMA pre-disaster mitigation program.
Good afternoon, councilors. Mary Robison, city engineer. Items 26 and 27 are related to the Arsenal Park hydraulic flood study that we're doing. Arsenal Park is a parcel of land adjacent to Dorwin Ave. We received a grant via prior ordinance 706-2019, and we get 75% reimbursement for $199,500, and $66,500 is our in-kind local match, which we plan to use with city forces doing surveying work and project administration and stuff. So we're asking for a bond ordinance and authorization of the study for a total cost not to exceed $266,000. Any questions? Item 28 through 30 is related to the East Calvin Street Mill and Pave project from Salina Street to Jamesville Ave. We're asking to amend the bond ordinance, the agreement with New York State DOT, and the project authorization to add the detailed design phase for a cost of $229,000, which would bring the total authorized amount to $475,000. This is reimbursed with 80% federal funds and 20% local match. It is eligible for Marchicelli, but we have not received any Marchicelli yet.
So, question for you, Mary. You know I'm gonna go with the Marchicelli. So I know that they have been giving us 15% if I recall
Yes.
right. So has there ever been any more than 15% on the Marchicelli?
No.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
It's 15% or less. So
We've been averaging at the 15%.
It's a maximum of 15%. Sometimes it's less if, we go for a certain amount of money and then we need a little bit more, then they won't aid typically the Marchicelli on that extra money, so that drops the percent down.
Okay.
But we'll ask, I'll put this on the list of questions to ask them why we're not getting Marchicelli on this. I think they prioritize what projects they want to fund. It is eligible, that's for sure. So we'll ask and see. Sometimes we get it after the fact.
About this as well?
Really, sometimes they prioritize and give it for the construction phase, which is the bulk of the money. I mean, this is, it's $500,000, don't get me wrong, but the construction's gonna be 3 million or so, what is the total project cost? Yeah, the construction money is gonna be 3 million, because the total project cost is 3.56. So let us look into it first and see, remind them. No, this is from Salina Street to James, this is East Calvin from Salina Street to Jamesville. And construction phase would be in '22. Any questions? 31 is accepting sewer lining and 5 spot repairs on the 1000 block of Clinton Street. This is related to the JMA project where we have abandoned Clinton Street between Taylor and Tallman. We asked them to line the sewer, which we will retain ownership of the sewer. We asked them to line it so that the sewer would be reinforced and wouldn't have any problems after they do whatever they're going to do to Clinton Street.
I know I asked this before, but I can't remember. Is this common practice for, when they do projects like this, that we ask that they do this type of work?
If there's a sewer that's aging and could fail, it's really in their best interest to do it so that we don't have a failure and then we go tear up what they just constructed.
Okay.
It follows with our dig once philosophy. And we do ask other developers to line sewers to meet the county's 101 sanitary sewer offset, so little different reason, but yes, we do require developers to do this regularly. So that's no cost to the city.
I have a question. When they decide to do those, do they receive any sort of like contractual concessions for agreeing to, say, replace the sewers? Is there any kind of offset to the cost, provided to them? Like, do they receive anything in return?
I don't believe so. We don't get involved in who they hire, but we do have provisions in the ordinance that, they have to have a qualified person and have someone inspecting the work, et cetera. Councilor Penny-Agua, did you have a question? Oh. Item 32 is our request to appropriate cash capital in the amount of $52,000 to replace 2 of our vehicles, a 2005 and a 2007. The 2007 has already been retired. That's to keep up our fleet for project inspections and field work. Any questions there? Item 33 and 34 is our infrastructure improvements and stormwater maintenance request for bonding and project authorization. This is to do a variety of infrastructure projects as needed, retaining walls, minor bridge repairs as we get flags from the state inspecting our bridges, pedestrian bridges, culverts, creek repairs. We have many needs, and this money's used partially for emergency repairs or the safety flags from DOT that are issued on our bridges. We're also bidding a retaining wall project between Walton and Fayette. If we're short on money there, we would use this money to offset that shortfall.
So do we not have a breakdown of, is this more of emergency, or are there projects? I mean, I know you mentioned a couple in there. Are there projects that we intend on using this, or is this more of a?
It's a combination of emergency and planned repairs and budget shortfalls on planned repairs.
Do you have a breakdown of the couple, like planned repairs?
I don't have like a breakdown with pricing, no.
Okay, but at least do you have a list of like the couple projects that we know that we're gonna do, or no?
I can provide you with something of what I think we're gonna use it for,
Okay.
but I don't really want to be bound to that and have to keep coming back if we need to change. Do you want me to email you a list?
If you could, just,
Okay.
I'd just like to know, let's go with an informal list of just a couple things that we know we're gonna do. I understand that probably a larger portion of this is gonna ultimately be emergency work that, when there's failures or issues.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, hold on, Mary, somebody button.
Yes, that was me, Madam President, sorry. Yeah, so Mary, it's not, it was me. It's not related to this, but it's close since we are talking about bridges. And so I think all of you saw that there was an article yesterday or day before that talk about 15 worst highways in the nation, right? And when you look at that, 5 of those are from upstate New York, right? From here to the western part of it. So while they do that, do they also look at bridges as well in terms of how, we got a couple of them here and how they rank and, their conditions and how bad they are? Have there been a study done?
Yes, the state, all our vehicular bridges, the state inspects every 2 years. So they do an overall, a detailed rating, and they do rank all of our bridges.
And how are we doing with that?
We're not doing too bad, actually. We've taken, in the last 10 years, we've addressed our most deteriorated bridges. I mean, we have problems here and there, but overall, I don't think we're doing all that bad. Okay, where am I? Did that, 35. This is a temporary use and access agreement with Niagara Mohawk Power. They're going to be doing a charging vault project throughout the city, and they requested use of some of our city-owned parcels for temporary access. So there's 2 parcels side by side on the 600 block of Midland Ave that they're requesting use for 6 weeks, and we will receive an income of $3,200 for the use of these parcels. It will be for staging equipment. It's not going to be for stockpiling spoils or, it's going to be for equipment.
That one over by the Creek Walk, the 600 block?
Yes, I believe so.
Actually in
No.
the area?
It's kind of directly just behind the right-of-way, the street right-of-way. But no, they cannot interrupt any operation of the creek walk.
Mary, before you move on off of this, I need to ask a question because I ride through the city a lot. And I've been noticing we have a lot of cutouts, especially on that west side. And it's been there for some months. How long, or is there a time span for them to do those cutouts and then fill them back in?
You're talking about street cuts in the street? Mm-hmm. Are you talking about like they did work and then they did some temporary restoration and then they have to come back and do final restoration?
I don't know what they have to do, because I know if you drive through there, the car gonna fall in there. It's on Oswego, it's on Seymour, it's on Gifford. All those streets have tons of cutouts in these cones around them, and they've been there for months.
Okay. I'll report that to DPW and have them check on them. Oswego, Seymour, and Gifford, you said, right? Okay.
Mary, I had asked this, and I know with at the standing committee meeting, I was told that we are indemnified for, anything, any damages, any whatever, for insurance purposes, but do we know what the actual equipment is that they're going to be leaving there?
I do not know specifically.
Okay. I would just be curious to know about what's going to be there, what safety precautions and things that they're going to have for, actually watching their equipment. Not that I'm specifically worried about them and their equipment being stolen, but more specifically, probably folks, getting hurt, kids going there playing on it, if there's not going to be fencing or if it's not going to be watched, what could happen?
Okay, I'll bring that up to them.
Sure, I grew up with some kids that at 14, 15 years old probably would have taken a crane or you know, a forklift.
Joyride?
Joyride, absolutely. I had some bad friends.
Connie?
That's why he's sitting in the front row with me.
And then the third property is at the corner of South Salina and Martin Luther King, and that's for a period of up to 12 weeks, and we're getting $6,000 in funds for that, use of that property. And if for some reason the construction takes longer than they anticipated, we know we would prorate the cost accordingly.
Any other questions? No? Okay, so 22 is being held, Madam President, all other items are ready. Those are my items.
Thank you. Counselor Hogan.
Thank you, President Hudson. I have items 36 to 55, the Parks Department. The Commissioner's eager to run these list of items down for us.
Good afternoon, Julie LaFave, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. I have a number of items. Some of them I will try to lump together since they are the same topic. But item number 36 is to accept a donation in the amount of $1,000 from David Kirby for us to install a custom-made bench that we already have in our basement.
God bless them. Good. 37.
37 through 41 are all related to our summer programming. Various amounts, various programming, but they're required for us to enter into agreement with the various instructors, the trainers needed for us to run these programs.
Any questions from my colleagues on that, on any of these?
I just want to ask a quick question. So Julie, Commissioner, you're going to be using some of the folks that we've used in the past to come back and do some of these different programs?
For instructors? Yes, a majority of them, item number 39, a lot of them are teachers in our school district. We try to stay local within the city when we can, but for this summer, they are returning instructors. Item 40, that's a generic one to cover us for the entire year, so that doesn't cover a specific instructor. So if there, if you guys wanted us to reach out in different ways, that one provides the opportunity for us to bring on new instructors.
Thank you, Commissioner. 42?
Commissioner, before you move on, it's a brief question. Are there any scholarship programs available for children that might not be able to afford these fees?
So that's a topic that comes up, and it's a topic that we're trying to address right now, and I think the only way that we can do it successfully is to right now use our Syracuse Parks Conservancy, that an application could be filtered through them and then they could pay the fee. So it has not been completed yet, but we are working on it.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just have one, maybe request/recommendation. Item 39. You know, if at all possible in the future, I'd like to see that extended for a longer period. The track and field?
Yes. So we may just have to get another instructor because sometimes it's based on their own availability, but I can write a note about that.
Excellent. Any other questions? 42, Commissioner.
Item number 42 is an annual agreement that we enter into for us, for obvious reasons, want to run background checks on all of our prospective employees who are working with vulnerable populations and any residents. Item number 43, we want to allocate funds from cash capital, this one specifically for court improvements. At the study, or at the meeting, you guys asked for a list of that. Specifically at the top of the list, we have Berry Park, Lincoln Park, Ormond Spencer, and Barker. We will address others if funds remain.
When you, Peter periodically goes around and checks, you have a priority list.
We do. We actually took advantage of the pandemic and the fact that we were able to prioritize the condition of a lot of our parks and our park amenities. Yes.
Commissioner, is Elmwood Park ever going to get a field out there? Or
To get what? I'm sorry.
to get like a basketball field or anything like that? Any thought? Maybe Tim Rudd could.
You want to actually, so you're asking if we've ever had any thought to construct a brand-new one there?
Right.
That actually has never been brought up, but we certainly always listen to the community to see what the needs are in that surrounding neighborhood.
Right.
I don't think it's been brought up because you have so many recently redone ones in Lower Onondaga, but we can.
But it does look beautiful out there.
Yes.
In Lower Onondaga. And I'm asking that because Elmwood Park, come summer, with the stream, kids are coming, folks are coming.
I will say that the playground needs replacement, and that is near the top of our list.
Right. Well, put that thought as well, and maybe when resource become available, maybe it's a topic we have conversation.
Okay, noted. Item number 44 is an annual allocation that various park roads and sidewalks need to be replaced. I do not have a list for this one. The cost changes so much, whether it's 100 feet of sidewalk, 10 feet of sidewalk. We try to get as much as we can for the worst, in the worst shape.
You can get us a list before Monday, you think? Maybe a...
I can get you a prioritized list, yes.
Thank you. 45.
45 and 46, I will like to say that I need to, there's a mistake in the letter, it says municipal dog shelter, so I just need to, I will send a new one before Monday. But this one is for us to address historical steps, railings, and walls throughout the city parks, specifically Edge Hill Wall, Westminster Steps, if what is required from the grant, if it's over, Sunnycrest, Elmwood, the railings, Councilor Majuk knows about those ones, as well as railings at Onondaga, but we have a variety of historical stoneware and steps and railings throughout our city parks that we need to really start to take a hard look at.
47.
47 is, we would like to authorize payment to Blake Trost for his performance at the annual Rose Day held this month at Thorndon Park.
48.
Item 48, this is to authorize payments for the city's Pops in the Parks performances. The concert's taking place every Tuesday evening in July at Onondaga Park.
Seems like a lot of things are in the third council district.
Hey.
Go on now.
Item number 49, if you recall, at a previous meeting, you authorized us to have a fee schedule for movies to be rented out, but we also are doing them in-house, so we need to pay for licensing in order to show those movies. So right now, we have it scheduled to take place at Burnett, Magnorelli, Meacham, and Norwood. We will be adding additional locations. Each license has a different dollar amount, so if funds remain from this, we will add another park throughout the city.
When are you guys gonna start?
Those are Fridays in July.
Okay.
It is on the, I did send a revised letter, so the dates and the locations should be in there.
These are all on the website, right, or not? Or
The movie nights will create actually event pages because those get better push out. People respond to those better than just listing on our website, so we'll create a separate event page for each one. They're free to the community now that we don't think that we'll get over 500, so now that we don't feel that we need to worry about that, it'll be open to everybody. We also are partnering with Schiller Thorndon. They are paying for a license, so there's going to be other locations that aren't necessarily ours, but there's going to be more locations in the city.
Excellent, thank you.
Yes. Item number 50 is to authorize payment. This is the senior center's favorite band, so this is for them to get back into hosting parties this year.
So. Myself and President Hudson have a great.
Item number 51 is one of the agreements we need in order to have that music played in our parks or in our facilities. The remaining items are waivers, and I can provide justification for why we are requesting a waiver if you'd like, but item 52 is with Pet Cremation Services. This is to handle post-life services for dogs picked up by dog control or other entities within the city.
So let's dive into this. 'Cause
Okay.
I had a real question on this
Okay.
one. I'm a little bit confused, because, when I was still chair of Parks and Move.
Personnel, the dog control personnel.
So the parks are still dealing with even though personnel and everybody is over with.
So we called it sort of a hybrid move, because
Okay.
the police department, I don't want to speak for them, but they didn't express having any knowledge of how contracts for sheltering services, post-life or anything, they didn't have, so the Parks Department is still paying for the sheltering services as well as the cremation services.
Okay. Now, and then I think this is probably more so a question for police and less for you, but I was told, and unfortunately I was told through a letter by a constituent, that we're going to get out of the animal control business. So can someone walk me through that? Because again, I got a letter from a constituent very concerned about the fact that we were no longer going to be doing dog control. And, when I spoke with him again, I couldn't tell him one way or the other because not on either of those committees, so I can't really speak to it.
Hi, Joe Ciso, First Deputy Chief. Good to see all of you back. All of you look much better in person. So, Councilor, it looked at first like we were going to eliminate that, we were going to do it part-time, meaning the officer would be doing that in addition to shift work, being on patrol. But we are now, we put the word out, we have 3 or 4 candidates that are going to take over the job for Officer Khalil when she retires in July. So that program will not be done away with. We will still be doing it.
Counselor Carney's talking about two different, you're talking cruelty officer and dog control, which are aligned but not the same thing, correct?
Yeah, I think he was asking whether we were getting rid of the officer.
Okay.
And we won't, yeah. So Tara Khalil.
All the above.
Is,
Okay.
yep.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it. Sorry, thank you.
Ready to move for the next item? Okay, item number 53 is a waiver for us we need to purchase various seeds, sometimes one-offs. We find it difficult to go into an agreement for just a tulip or a pansy or a geranium. So this gives us the ability to purchase from various vendors who may carry those types of seeds and plants.
So there, you know how I am about these
I
competitive bids, so there's no one that can meet all of our needs on plants?
I will say that I'm not knowledgeable enough, but sometimes we need a seed, sometimes it's based on the requests of the neighborhoods, because we like to support each, Meadowbrook is one, Holly Green, they all have individual plants that they like, and we like to support those when we can, so it's hard for us to predict that we can't just get everything from one vendor, so that's the difficulty. So this is really so that we can go to multiple vendors based on, and the county still will find the cheapest price. And I will say 54 is very similar. But,
No, they're always up.
well, no, but, so 54, I will say, is very specific in the fact that if we order a playground from Landscape Structures, we cannot get a repair part from Parkitex. We have to get it from the manufacturer. And item 55 is another waiver for us, when we have, if we have a party and welcome the seniors back and we need to get paper plates, it's for purchases like that. So this is for us to get those last minute bulk items that you can't really order, and from Wegmans is we haven't been able to find a local grocer that will allow a PO or allow us to purchase this way.
How are we doing with the lifeguards right now?
So I actually have great news about that. Well, we have 7 vacancies as of yesterday to open 7 pools. We are completing 1 lifeguard course right now, and we still have another one scheduled, so we are completely optimistic that we will find those 7 people. The only asterisk I would add to that is because we're not offering swim lessons this year. So if we were offering swim lessons this summer, it would be a different situation, but because we're just focused on opening the pools for free and getting people out there, we're able to staff it. But we are already talking about an aggressive plan, getting back in the schools next school year to get more. We're working with different organizations who say, so we're in good shape for opening on time this year. Some water has already started to go in pools as of yesterday.
So we're staffed, because I know on Dagger County, they're not opening one of their
I just spoke to them today. We're going to help them host a course so that they can hopefully attract a few more guards.
And Commissioner, I kind of maybe know what the answer is, but what's the reason of not offering sessions for?
We don't have the staff. Well, we don't have the staff and protocols. We need a lot of time in planning to offer swim lessons, and at that point in time when we were planning for the summer, if you think about a 5-year-old in swim in the water, the lifeguard has to be this close. So we have to wait, honestly, until there's a more comfort level, both from the parents and the youth, as well as our staff. I don't want to put a 16-year-old in that close of contact. We don't know if our staff are vaccinated. The child probably isn't. So it's really kind of a safety thing, and we don't want to rush it. So we do have plans to hopefully offer some lessons starting in September.
Okay, and based on the usage and people taking advantage of it, every year, do we get good reception as to people putting their kids through and people?
Swim lessons?
Yes.
Oh, yes, they sell out.
Okay.
Yes, and they're extremely affordable, and then that, it's $10 for 6 or 8 lessons, but that would be a great candidate for the scholarship program, but we have a lot of repeat adults and children.
I don't want to belabor this point, but I was just kind of wondering, when it comes to, since you're not offering swim lessons, will there be additional staffing as much as possible to ensure there aren't any safety concerns from children who necessarily can't swim as well?
So we have to maintain a certain supervisory level, a certain ratio per the health department, but I will say we're always above that. Not only lifeguards, but we have pool aides, we have a lot of staff, but we have some of the best lifeguards in the area, I'm not gonna lie. But I don't have a concern, not that accidents can't happen, but we overstaff, we go over what is needed.
Understood, thank you.
And Commissioner, just to go back a little bit, I know you were looking for 100 positions, right? What was that?
So that was a non-residency waiver.
Okay.
That's a worst-case scenario if we can't attract enough local young adults. We put a max number on there. I will check what we are this year for non-residents, but it actually hasn't been, I think people think it's a lot higher than it is. I think it was 40 or so last year, which is a higher number, but it's when you take that out of 150.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my next
We have many
question.
more residents than many more residents than non-residents working at our pools.
Yeah, I would love to know out of that.
We keep track of it every year, so we're not completed hiring this year, so in about a month or so, because we'll have some people trail out, we'll have some people come in about a month, I can provide you this year's numbers.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Commissioner, I'd like to thank you and your department for what you've done over the last year. It's really been amazing with all you had to deal with, and could you please relay that to your people that work for you?
I absolutely
and for
will.
the city. We really appreciate it.
The best compliment is to come out to the parks and come out to the programs, so thank you.
Myself and Councilor Majuk are going to probably lifeguard at McKinley Pool this year.
Come bring donuts too.
Councilor Hogan, you told me and you were going to teach tennis lessons this year.
We're doing that too.
Okay, well, y'all do that on your time. Who's next? Councilor Majuk.
Thank you, Madam President. Chief Cecil, item 56. I think we have beaten that to death, but if anyone has any question, just go over it a little bit to just.
Sure. So it's an agreement with Downtown Committee to reimburse the city for 50% of the costs for that downtown detail in Armory Square, which, as all of you know, is Friday, Saturday night from 11 p.m. to 3 in the morning, and usually requires 8 officers and 2 sergeants. The first detail, by the way, will be this weekend, which will be paid for by police department or city funds for this weekend coming up.
And for anyone that is curious of moving forward with this item, next year is going to be a better layout of how to move forward with this in the future. So, any other questions on this?
If I could, Chief, maybe this summer, if you could just maybe give us a weekly update on what's happened over the weekend as far as this detail goes, maybe the chairman of the Public Safety Committee.
Yep.
I think that would be illustrative of how the need is.
Absolutely. I'll do that.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep. Thank you.
Next item, Chief Mott.
You okay, Joe?
Good afternoon, Madam President. Good afternoon, Councilor Majuk. Good afternoon, everybody. This request is for legislation to amend a previous ordinance 395-2020, which we received $10,000 from Onondaga County to pay backfill for hazmat training. So I'm seeking to get an additional $8,000 to amend that previous ordinance. So that's what this is about.
Questions? Thank you, Chief.
Okay,
That will be all for me, Madam President. Thank you.
Sir? Councilor Allen. And before you start, could we kind of speak into the mics, because I think folks are having a hard time hearing. Thank you.
Mine doesn't really move that much, but. All right, so I have items 58 through 78. 58 is pretty self-explanatory, but I don't know if, I know Yolanda isn't here. Did anybody want to come and speak on it? And it's just the encroachment of a sign
Good afternoon. My name is Medea Salkich. I'm the Permits Director. As Councilor Allen mentioned, it's a pretty straightforward request for an encroachment for an encroaching sign at 301 North State Street for a business sign for Bloom on Willow. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I never saw you in person, so I wasn't sure if that was you or not. And then items 59 through 78, I thought I saw Michelle. Can you let us know if you had any updates? Did anybody come forward? And I have a few, but I'll let you go first.
So I did not have any updates on any of them since we last talked about them at the committee meeting, but happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
So, Councilor Driscoll did want to hold the 3 items in his district, 66, 67, and 68. Did you want to hold about the weekend?
Yeah, I think you guys can talk more about them. I don't know if you want to do that here or offline. I was just curious if you had any idea about what type of development you were looking for there, or what type of development. If there's someone interested already, or I'll ask you.
My understanding is that there isn't any specific offers in right now, but the idea is basically that we would be able to reassemble for a larger parcel. That way we could kind of optimize the opportunities that there would be in the future, so.
Okay, I'll connect with you too.
Okay, sounds good.
Do you know if Caitlin was planning on, was there any discussion about demoing, or would they sell as is?
I am not aware of specifics yet in that regard, but we can find out.
Gotcha.
I reckon because it was a former auto.
Yeah, it is a brownfield, so there would have to likely be some remediation that would have to happen. So similar to some of the other brownfield properties that we've been putting through in the pilots recently, we need to do kind of the testing and figure out what the full extent is that would need to be remediated in order for them to move on to the next step of getting it to the place where it could be redeveloped.
Okay. So. All right, so 59 through 65 are all going to be ready, and then the 66, 67, 68 will hold for further discussion after. And then 69 through 78 are all ready unless there's any questions or updates. Okay, so thank you.
Righty, and with that, I think that's it. No waiver items. So, motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
See you on Monday.